Edgar, why in the world don't you get out of this town? Carrie said. You're just wasting your time here, and you know it. The hardware store is bad enough, but a dry goods store is worse. In the shoe departmental there is a river. I know these stores, Edgar. I've worked in them. I work in one now. They'll just take everything out of you, and you get nothing for it in the end. You get back in the business. You know, where you like your work and can get some place. Get a job in a bookstore. Where? He asked. Anywhere, she said, except in Hopkinsville. In Louisville, or Bowling Green, or Cincinnati. Goodness. You and Gertrude sitting around mooning over each oiher just give me fits. That child only weigh carrot s 80 pounds now. And there's nothing in the world the matter Whitley her except she's so much in love with you she doesn't know what to do with herself, and she's worried sick about your job, and when you two can get married. You go away for a while and get a job that suits you, and believe me you'll both be better. Gertrude will get well if she knows you're happy. And as soon as you both have something to look forward to again you'll be better off. It was a July day in Hopkinsville. They stood in the back of Richard's dry goods store, in the shoe department, where Edgar worked. He finished wrapping the shoes she had bought and handed her the package. You think about that, Edgar, and do something about it, she said. When she had gone he went to the clerk's office and borrowed stationery and a pen. A plan had been growing in his mind for weeks. He decided to act on it. In Louisville there was a large bookstore, J.P. Morton and Company. He wrote them, asking for a copy of their complete catalogue. A week later it arrived. That night he slept on it. While he had solicited letters of recommendation from there is a river political officer, judge, doctor, lawyer, and businessman of his acquaintance in Hopkinsville and Christian County. When he was sure that he knew the catalogue from cover to cover, he wrote a letter to the company, applying for a position as clerk. He received a polite reply, stating that no jobs were open at present, but that his application would be placed on file. By return mail he started the stream of letters of recommendation on its way. A batch went in every mail. 3 days later a telegram came from Louisville, signed by the manager of the bookstore. It read, "Quit sending recommendations. Report for work AU. Gust 1. It was the 29th of July. Edgar withdrew his money from the bank, bought a linen suit, packed his belongings, spent the evening with Gertrude, and took a train. Early the next morning. Louisville bewildered him, until he discovered that he had bewildered J.P. Morton and Company. The clerks came to look at him. They shook his hand and told him that he had sure put one over on the boss. Nobody ever came to us with such recommendations, the manager admitted. They must think you're the greatest man in the world over in Hopkinsville. But there really isn't a job here. You'll have to make one for yourself. Edgar did his best, as he had with the Hopper brothers. He used his knowledge of the catalogue whenever possible. When a customer bought a book on a certain subject he would say, "We also have," and recite the appropriate List of parallel works. One lady was so fascinated by this that she asked about books on all the subjects in which she had any interest. Edgar recited the names of the books, dealing vsdth them. Finally the lady accused him of learning the catalogue by heart. He admitted it. She told his employer, complimenting him on having such a bright clerk. There is a river. When she had gone, the manager hugged Edgar. You've made a hit with the richest woman in town, he said. I've been trying to get her trade for years, and you've done it. From now on your salary is raised from $7.50 a week to $10. Gertrude ran into the yard, waving the letter. His coining home for Christmas, she cried, landing in a heap on the grass in front of her mother, Aunt Kate, and Stella. Her mother marked the place in her book and looked up, smiling. That's lovely, she said. His mother will be glad to see him. Aunt Kate finished a stroke of needlepoint. Then she said, laughing, Heavenly day, Gertrude, Christmas is 4 months off. Why all the excitement? Gertrude jumped to her feet and grabbed Stella. Come on, she said. Let's go for a walk. They went around the house and down the path, in the cooling shade of the oaks and maples. It's just a year that he's been gone, Gertrude said, and I thought he was never going to have a chance to come home. Now it seems that he hasn't been gone at all. There is a river. They hung on the gate, looking down the road toward Hopkinsville, by stretching as far as she could. Gertrude was able to see the front of the little house where she had spent her childhood. It stood in a grove of trees just beyond the carriage gate. There she and Hugh and Lynn had played together until the house was rented and they all moved to the hill. Her childhood seemed a long way off, as if she had lived it in another life, when she was someone else. The things that concerned her now had all begun at the gate on which she was perched. I remember the first night he came out here, she said to Stella. He was so shy and bashful that I took him by the arm and led him down here, so he could get away from the crowd. I was trying to put him at ease and make him feel at home, but when I remember it now, it's a wonder he didn't think I was being bold. Stella laughed. No one but yourself would accuse you of being flirtatious, she said. You're not the type. Gertrude looked at her seriously. Do you think I'm the type for marriage? She asked. Do you think I'll make a good wife? Oh, yes, Stella said. You'll spoil your husband, and spoil your children, and work yourself to death. That's the definition of a good wife according to the men. Think 2 people have to learn gradually to forget what each one wants when they get married and find out what they want together, Gertrude said. And the best way to do that is to have Kymren and let the parents train themselves not to be selfish by sharing the child and all the things that parents want to do for a child. Stella was suspicious. Did you read that in a book? She asked. There is a river. Gertrude shook her head. Been thinking all those things out for myself. She laughed. I haven't had much else to do for a year. It's made you healthy, Stella said. I didn't know that. Thinking was so good for muscles. Tell me, what do you expect of marriage, Gertrude? They talked on and on, while the day fought off its heat, and waited for evening. To Gertrude it was but a roll of the seasons, and he was there, telling her about Louisville and admiring the new color in her cheeks and the new health that glowed from her. She was radiant. She found him taller, heavier, but as young as ever in his admiration of her. He said nothing about the subject that was uppermost in both their minds BNTAL a few days before he was to leave. Then he explained his reticence. "I've had all the raises I wrote you about," he said. "But I found that living expenses in Louisville just have a way of keeping up with your income, no matter what it is. By the time I got my first raise, I was tired of the way in which I had been forced to have, so I expanded at HTTLE. With the next raise I expanded a little more. And they are still not paying me enough for two to live on comfortably. So I've decided to quit." She looked frightened. "I have another job, with my father. He has an excellent chance to sell fraternal insurance, going from Tuvum to town, under the auspices of a society, and writing up the policies, which they offer to all new members. The members always take the insurance, because it is very reasonable. And all that is necessary is to go to the places, meet the new members, and sign them up. But my father has his own business here town, and there is a river can't leave it. So he wants me to go into partnership with him, and take the fraternal end. ITL go to the towns near here, and be back home every weekend. It's a sure thing, and I'm certain to make more money than I did in Louisville. I can live at home, be with my mother, see you, and save enough money in a short time for us to get married." Gertrude threw her arms around him in relief. Back in Louisville, the manager of J.P. Morton & Com. Payne accepted his resignation, but offered to keep him on the payroll if he would take with him, in his travels, a line of specialty books, ledgers, checkbooks, etc., and introduce them in the towns he visited. He accepted gratefully. On February 1st, 1900, Edgar Casey, salesman and insurance agent, went on the road, touring the towns of western Kentucky. Early in March he arrived in Elkton, a small town about 40 miles from Hopkinsville. For several weeks, off and on, he had been suffering from severe headaches. One morning while in Elkton the pain was particularly bad. He stopped at a doctor's office and asked for a sedative. The doctor gave him a powder and told him to take it with a glass of water. He went back to his hotel and swallowed the dose. When next he was conscious, he was at home in Hopkinsville, in bed. Two doctors were in the room, the family physician, J.B. Jackson, and Dr. A.C. Hill. They were looking at him anxiously. He heard them talking to the squire, who told them that a friend of the family, a man named Ross Rogers, come on Edgar in the railroad station over in Elkton, wandering around in a daze. Didn't he seem to know Ross or anything? Had his overcoat on, but it was open, and there is a river. His hat was gone. Ross brought him home. Ross was coming. Anyhow. Edgar tried to speak, to ask questions, but his voice had dwindled to a faint, painful whisper. They gave him a gargle, but it didn't help. Finally he managed to tell his story, with whispers and gestures. The doctors examined him and said that except for his hoarseness he was all right. The sedative had apparently been too strong, and had shocked his nervous system. Probably his sore throat came from wandering around the streets on a cold day with his coat open and no hat on. They advised him to rest.